Hello everyone and welcome to this JavaScript crash course. In this course, we'll cover everything from the fundamentals of JavaScript to more advanced topics. And along the way, we'll work on a few projects to help solidify your understanding of the concepts. We'll begin with the basics, such as understanding what JavaScript is and why it's used. I'll also guide you through setting up your development environment so that you can follow along and practice as we go. I'll aim to explain everything in detail throughout the course. So let's dive in and get started. But before we start, if you have already started learning JavaScript and you want to learn a very specific topic, you can check out the description of the video. I have mentioned every topic along with the timelines, so you can switch directly to that topic, whichever you want to learn. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's start by understanding what is JavaScript. So first of all, of course, it's a programming language. Now let's understand that what is the purpose of writing JavaScript code and how we can do that. So first of all, there are three major components whenever you see a web page, or you can say like a website. It will have some sort of style. It will have boxes, it will have images, different fonts, different styles, right? So whenever a web page is designed, right, whenever a web page or website is created, the structure is created first using HTML, and then the styling that you see, right, any different colors or font styles that you see, that is done by using CSS. And any sort of action that you add to your web page or to your website, that is done by using JavaScript. So JavaScript is basically used to add any sort of interactivity to the web page. Now let me move to my VS Code and I'll quickly show you an example. So here, if you see, I have created a project, simple calculator, and I have three files. So HTML file will always have an extension .html, and then before the extension, you can give any name that you want. I have given index. So .html file we have, which will basically is like, preparing the structure of the project, as in the skeleton, or you can say the blueprint. And the CSS file is applying the style, whatever we want, like, what font we want, how and where do we keep different boxes on the screen, what color do we want it to be, what size do we want it to be, correct? So all those sort of styling is kept in the .css, which is the style file, and any sort of action or interactivity is done by using the JavaScript file, which has .js extension. All right, so let me quickly preview this and show you what will happen if I remove, let's say, the style file or the JavaScript file. So this is the project. Okay, it shows me a calculator, and if I show you, for example, if I do, let's say, 8 plus 9, it gives me the result. Okay, so this calculator is working perfectly fine. Now if you see in this index file, I have included two other files. So I have linked the CSS file, right, the style.css. If you see style.css, so I have linked the style file onto my HTML, and I have also linked the JavaScript file, right, .js file, into my HTML file. So basically this is, you can say, this is like your home file, right, wherever your structure lies, right? In that structure, you are linking your JavaScript file and you're also linking your style file. Now if I remove the style file, let's see what happens. So if I remove this, you can see the style is gone. This calculator will still work. So for example, if I do 9 plus 4, let's say, and is equals to, it is working, right? You can see it's working perfectly fine, but this doesn't look good, right? So that is why we have styled all the elements, how it should look, what should be the background, what should be the color, and like, how these number blocks should look, and all of that is included in the style file. So I'll just do a Control Z here and include the style file back. All right, so basically CSS, we write CSS code in order to apply the style, and with HTML, you already saw what did we do with HTML. With HTML, we prepared the structure, right? What are the things that you want on the page to be visible, how it should be. Okay, so just by adding the structure, it doesn't look good, it is not very user friendly, correct? So that is why we have added styles, so that we can make it look a bit more beautiful, or a bit more organized and structured, you can say, right, and a bit more stylish. And after that, let's say, so now also, if you see, right, everything works perfectly fine. But if I go ahead and remove my JavaScript file from here, right, let's say if I delink this, and now what happens? No matter what number I keep on clicking, is it typing in here? No. Any operator, any number, any function here, it's not working. Like the interactivity or the action, you can say, is totally gone. Okay, because the whole logic that we already have for this calculator is inside the JavaScript file. So the logic that I have, right, for example, if somebody, in my logic in my JavaScript file, I have already defined that, okay, if somebody is pressing on 8, then the display box should show 8. And if somebody, for example, clicks on plus, then it should take the operator as plus. And then when somebody clicks on the next number, then it should add both the numbers, right? Similarly, like, for each and every control that you see here for plus, minus, division, multiplication, equals to sign, or clearing the screen, for everything we have written the logic in the JavaScript file. And now because we have removed the JavaScript file from here, it's not working. Okay, it won't work at all. So just by having the HTML and CSS is not enough, right? If you want to add interactivity, then your logic should be written inside the JavaScript file, and your JavaScript file should be linked in your HTML file. So there is one more thing, right? So the best practice is of course to create separate files. So for example, what else we could have done is that we could have directly in the script tag here itself, right? I could have just inside the script tag. So for example, if I remove this, let's say this. So in the script tag here itself, I would have written all the logic that I already have in the JS file. But the best practice is to keep this file separate and then link it into the HTML file. And similarly, it's the same case with style file. Either you can link the style file here, or we could have written the logic of the CSS in this file itself. But let's just go with the best practice right now, so that and don't worry, I'll show you the other way as well, how you can include the CSS and the JavaScript in the HTML file itself. But these 2 points, just remember that you should create separate files and then link those 2 separate files into your HTML. Okay, so I'm just gonna do Control Z here. All right, this was the very basic of what is JavaScript and what does it actually do. Now if let me go ahead and create a sample JavaScript file for you. So I'll close this down and I'm going ahead and but before we get started, this is VS Code that I'm using. So let me tell you how you can install the VS Code. So this is the official website, and you can navigate to this link and you can install VS Code as per your requirement depending on whatever system you're using. So once your VS Code installation is complete, when you launch your VS Code, you'll see a page like this, the welcome page. So the next step is to create a folder. So either you can create a folder by clicking on this, or what you can do is just close it down and then click on this icon, Explorer icon, and here you need to select a folder. So click on open folder, choose a location. You can create a new folder if you want. So I'm just going to create this folder and select this folder. So once you do this, you can see that your folder which you have selected is coming up over here, right? Now the next thing that you have to do is create another project, right? So let's say if you want to get started, you have to create your own projects, correct? So here, just click over here, and then there are these icons that you see, right? This is to create a new file, and this one is to create a new folder. So we'll go ahead and create a new folder. So I'll just click on this and just type in demo1 or something like that. Okay, anything, any name that you want to give. So after you have created your project folder, you have to go ahead and create your files. So there are 3 files that we want to create, right? We want to create HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. So there are 2 options to create the file. Either you can right click on this folder and click on new file and then create the file, or you can just use this shortcut. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use this shortcut. So I'll click on this, and first I'll create index.html. So the name you can give anything, but you need to give the correct extension. So if it's a HTML file, then it has to be .html. If it's a CSS file, then it has to be .css. And in case of JavaScript, it has to be .js. So this is my index file. Now let's just go ahead and create another file. So I'll just create one for CSS, and I'll go ahead and create another one for JS. So .js. Okay, so we have all the 3 files now. Now let's just go ahead and can write our first JavaScript project. But before that, you need to do another step. So there's something called live server extension. So click on this option, extensions, and here search for live server. And I'll tell you that why we are doing this. So here just search for this one, and when you click on it, you will get an option to install it. Because I have already done it, I'm getting the option to uninstall. So once you have already installed it, right, what happens is when you go back to your project and when you right click on the HTML file, you see this option, open with live server. So here, if I click on this, it's gonna run the project. So right now we haven't written anything on the project, right? That is why it is blank. But this is very handy because this shows you the live changes. Otherwise, there are other ways as well in order to run the project. For example, you can navigate to this folder wherever you have kept it. So for example, if I just right click on it and I'll click on this reveal in file explorer, and here I'll click on demo1, and here if I do this, I can run this way as well. So let me first go ahead and create something. Okay, so in the index file, I'll just add a boilerplate code. So I'll type in exclamation and then hit enter. All right, and in the body tag, I'm going to give a header and just type in hello and save it. Now we'll go back and then we'll see here, and you see the hello is here. But what did I have to do? I had to, I mean, if you are taking this way, you always have to go to the folder and you have to rerun or refresh, right? So this extension is very handy because this extension gives you the option to run the project here itself and see the changes live. So for example, if I run it again, I'll just adjust the 2 screens. Okay, so here I'm just going to drag this and adjust it to the size of the VS Code. All right, so you can do your page half and half, and you can see like, whatever is happening, like, your changes, and then you can see the live changes over here. All right. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do something else now. So another advantage of using this extension is that with this extension, you can also inspect, because there are other extensions as well that shows the preview of your code, but they do not allow you to debug it. Okay, so the developer tool you'll not be able to use with any other extension is what I know. So better use this one, so that because you're learning JavaScript, right, and you would need a lot of times to see the debug logs, so you need this extension specifically. Okay, so once you're done with this, now we can go ahead and try something in JavaScript. So right now what we see is coming from the HTML directly, right? So for example, if I do this, okay, so here you can see the changes, right? So this is coming from the HTML, but we don't have anything in JavaScript right now. So what we can do is, if I put in alert, right, let's say alert. So alert is a inbuilt method of JavaScript that you can use. So I'm just gonna type in something here and I'll just save it. But before running this, right, we need to include this script file in the HTML file. So here we haven't linked it, right? Remember, I told you to link it, otherwise it won't work. So source and then script.js, and then we'll save it, and you see the alert, right? So where is the alert? In the script file, in the JavaScript file. And there's something else we can try. So here, if I do anything, so to log anything in the console log, here you can just type in coming from console log and just save it. And here, let's just remove the alert because it's popping up every time. So I'll just remove it. That's it. Now here, if I just right click and inspect it and I go to console, so here now under console, under info, you can see that this is getting printed. All right. Now let me show you another example, but you won't understand a lot of things that I'm going to do, but just have some patience. And the only agenda that I'm going to show you this example is so that you'll just have this bit of understanding that what and all we can do with JavaScript, right? Just for the very starting point. So here I'll go ahead and create a button, and I'll give this button an ID. And here let's just give it a name as click me, and save this. So there's a button here, right? Now when I click on this button, nothing happens, correct? Because we need to add the interactivity using JavaScript. So what I'll do is I'll take the ID of the button, okay? Because I cannot directly refer to the button, okay? So I'm just taking the ID of the button. I'll go to the JavaScript, and now I want to write a logic. Example, let's say I want to display an alert when somebody clicks on this button. Okay, for that, in your JavaScript file, first you need to get that element. Which element? The button element, right? Because your JavaScript file should know, right, that which element you want to perform an action on. Okay, so let me just remove all of this, and I'll just create a variable here. Don't worry if you're not understanding any of this, it's totally fine. Okay, just keep observing. Okay, so here there's something called document.getElementById, get element by ID, and then what is the ID that I have copied from the HTML? It's this, right? And dot add event listener. And what is the event that somebody is going to do? Somebody will click on the button, and when someone clicks on the button, what should happen? So let me make some space here. When somebody clicks on the button, I'm going to run a function, and what will I do? I will show an alert. Okay, and I'll just show this as button click, and that's it. Okay, I'll save this, and if I click on this, you can see, right, button clicked. So this is the very basic thing that we learned, right, that we are adding interactivity using JavaScript. So all of these things, don't worry about it. We'll learn that, like, how and all we need to fetch the element, and how am I, like, using this particular method, and what is the use of this method, and all of that. But I think it's also very clear that you might not be very aware of, like, what is document, what is this method, but at least you should get this idea that, okay, you know what, there's a button in the HTML file, and we have taken the ID. So first we are accessing the button element in our JavaScript file. So I have accessed the button element, and after that I'm defining that if somebody clicks, so there are some events, predefined events, and when somebody clicks, then what should happen, right? So this is how we need to access the elements from the HTML and then write the logic in the JavaScript. Okay, all right, so you can say that this was our first JavaScript program. Now you know that, like, what is the project structure that you would be creating and how you can start writing code. Okay, so that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one.